Saturday was World Climate Day, and the Climate Clock Ambassador Okyeame Kwame led students and pupils on Friday on a walk to the Parliament House to meet the Climate Caucus at the Parliament. The walk started from the AMA office through the principal street of Accra and ended up at the Parliament House. The Climate Clock Ambassador Okyeame Kwame, together with the KIT, presented their petition to the Parliamentary Caucus. The Mayor of Accra addressed the issue, so did their host from the Parliamentary Caucus.
Climate justice when you want it. Now. We want climate justice when you want it. Now. We want climate justice when you want it. Now. Charlie. Now. Climate justice. What do you want? 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 Climate justice.
So currently, the amount of renewable energy that the world is using is only 13.6%. We want lawmakers to help us bring technologies and exchanges from Europe to this place. And also, now that you are so bent on increasing STEM, science, technology, and engineering.
We are rising by the grace of God. And what about you?
This function. First of all, let me acknowledge that we have been impressed with your work and the message that you have sent to the world through your leadership.
I think congratulations will be in right for me to give you. But what was the goal bringing the KIT here?
The goal is to show the world that the lawmakers are not oblivious of the fact that the climate conversation is about children. We are old. Very soon we'll be dead and gone. And we are going to leave this hot world for these innocent children who have contributed little to nothing to this cancer. So we came here, one, to celebrate or to observe the World Climate Emergency Day, which is tomorrow. And we decided to marry the lawmakers, which is our leaders now, and our future leaders, which is their children, for them to see it in their eyes, how important the climate conversation is to Ghana.
Well, you did this in connection with AMA.
Yes.
What is the essence of having AMA partner this?
Because the climate conversation is basically about environment. And you know that here in Accra, AMA is responsible for cleanliness, responsible for almost everything. So the conversation needs partnership. Sometimes you need to align with the powers so that the weight of your conversation will be strong. Last year, we celebrated the Climate World Emergency Day by going to schools. We went to the Usu cluster of schools to talk about, to teach about environment and the climate change and the global warming conversation. And I did it with the AMA, with the AMA boss, with the Accra mayor. So we are lifelong partners. for the conversation to go down, we need to work with NGOs, civil societies, we need to work with schools, with education, we need to work with politicians, we need to work with pastors, we need to work with imams. Everybody must come on board so that we can keep nature at least the way we found it and not destroy it.
Gospel musician Kaklote over the weekend had a private album listening to his yet-to-be-released album, Shida. The 13-track album, Shida, has some very notable names in there.
Adonai is my victory. Suna Yesu, Talimakona, he is my fortress. Suna Yesu, Nasarana, he is my victory. That's why we have the Nasara boys. Suna Yesu. So they give birth to their giftings without sweat. Generations will appreciate fathers and celebrate fathers. So I want to take this opportunity to plead to all the fathers. May we be fathers and not banks. Gift and let you starve with it. Lack of faith is making you relate to God like a worker, not a son. You don't think when you play for free for the church, somebody can know your skill and invite you to the studio to play, and what the person will give you will be 10 times what you have taken from the church. Where is your faith then? Oh yeah, I know, those guys, they are wild. They will rise. I say Abraham Latte spoke against musicians being paid because they are always in a hurry to misinterpret an intention. When you bless, it is blessed. We don't think about who blesses or who can. When you prosper, it prospers. When you favor, it is favored. And according to the book of Deuteronomy, that nobody lives to battle without delegating what he or she has unto the Lord. Therefore, O Lord, to send this gift you have endowed your manservant to the four corners of the world. Via technology, this is the best way to do it now.
Our cameras were there, and as usual, I always get you the exclusives here on the hottest, on the freshest, on the red carpet show. This is what happened at the Shida album listening by Carl Clote.
10 years. You've waited for 10 good, solid years before this album. I can imagine the kind of things that were actually going through your mind, the challenges that went through before all of these things actually came into fruitfulness before you had this album. Tell me, how was it like?
Well, it was a roller coaster ride. I won't say it was easy because of the fact that I like to strive for excellence. It took us a bit of a longer time than it usually would because of lack of resources. Some of the recordings had to be shared in different years at different projects so that we could get the music out. So that's how come it took that long for it to come. But we have been releasing singles. But I believe an album is a body of work that should have a collective of very great songs. And after 10 years, I know that this song would serve its purpose and people will have enough of Calculate.
I'm going to ask you this then. What is the biggest project you're actually looking out of this album to do? Because, I mean, commercially, there are songs on the album that you want to really project. That people, because Calculate, we know, will do a show, will do a program, and the whole place is full up. But we hardly see more of you out there. So what is the biggest project actually that is going to come out of this album now that you waited for 10 years?
Well, I'm planning on being more visible, putting out more content from what this album has. Let's say the Soreno song is very simple and relatable. People can worship with it, pray with it. And the Shida song is a blend of, you know, Ivory Coast sound to Ghanaian sound with Ghana lyrics. I know that those would be the pointers in the album that will make people look for this album and take us around the globe like we perceive.
Okay, so the pastor mentioned the fact that what God has actually purposed for, we shall surely come to his fruitfulness. But as an artist, what are you looking forward to come out of this album?
To reach the globe. I mean, how the sound was produced, it's supposed to match international standards. It's about time that we have a lot of global sounds, gospel global sounds hitting the whole wide world. I mean, we see our neighbors, the Nigerians, doing it. We sing their music. People sing it around the world. It's been dawned on my heart, which is the global agenda, that I should put out songs as simple as they get and take it out to the world. I would need a lot of mechanisms, and like the way JoyNews is helping me, all media houses to support, and let's push these songs to the world.
Nice one. My last question is that if you look at what you have done, the embodiment of what you've done so far, I mean, will you say that Kalkote is now ready for the world?
By grace, I have been ready. This album would clearly make it more evident, because the work is there for all to see. There are songs on there that people know me for. In Kunim, One and Only, Dedel. You know, it's a blend of all styles of music. From my background, where I come from, Afrobeats is very common and, you know, simple for me by God's grace. He gives me the ability to do that. There's worship music, there's reggae music, there's Africo, like they call it. We have all the music styles in there. So when you listen to it, you can be able to see that the hand of God is upon this, and this is what God wants us to do. I know that He has given me enough for what this industry needs, and we shall be a blessing at the end of the day.
Write all the songs.
Yes, please, by grace.
And today, Africa Rising is much more real than it's ever been before. And so for us to be able to reconnect that umbilical cord of separation that we suffered, particularly under the ignominious slave trade business, is significant. But beyond that, and I keep saying, the African continent by far is probably the richest continent of God's earth, with significant opportunity, but its people are poor, because the global trade architecture has not been able to facilitate real growth and productivity on the continent. And in the past, we've exported all our raw materials, but now we don't want to do that. And so reaching out, particularly to what we call, Akwesi mentioned, the global African, is very important.
Our presence here, quite frankly, signifies the importance. Mr. Minister, you and I have talked about how can we build on that relationship of tourism, and you've asked me to consider being the ambassador for tourism, not just, I mean, for the city of Houston and beyond, to encourage Americans and others to come to Ghana. And I will tell you, just based on what I have already seen, I'm already on social media telling them they need to come. And so I fully accept that role. I'm honored to accept that role. And what I can say, the top 4 cities in the United States, the top 4, are now governed in terms of their mayor's position by African Americans. New York, Eric Adams. In Los Angeles, Karen Bass. In Chicago, Brandon Johnson. And of course, in the city of Houston, myself. So the top 4 cities in terms of population, where there is significant Africans in their respective cities. We certainly, I think, have a responsibility to do everything we can to encourage not only people to come to Ghana as tourists, but also to encourage those who do business in our city, to do business in Ghana, to invest in Ghana.
The mayor has basically accepted to be the face of tourism in the United States for Ghana. What that means is that he's going to drive tourism and development to this country. As of now, it's an average of 120,000 to 130,000 tourists from the U.S. every year. We want to double that in the next 2 years. With the support of the mayor and his team, we would do that. Last year, U.S. accounted for 37% of all tourists coming to Ghana, 37 being the highest. And we are hoping that with the mayor and his team's assistance, this figure will double in 2 years. We are very grateful for that. What Africa and Ghana needs now is creating jobs for our young people. Yeah. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, 3 out of every 10 jobs over the next decade will be created from the tourism sector. That means that to create jobs for Africa's young people, 65% of them are below the age of 25 years. We need to invest a lot in tourism. Right? So we want you to support us, win-win partnership to create the jobs.
And today, Africa Rising is much more real than it's ever been before. And so for us, to be able to reconnect that umbilical cord of separation that we suffered, particularly under the ignominious slave trade business, is significant. But beyond that, and I keep saying, the African continent by far is probably the richest continent of God's earth, with significant opportunity, but its people are poor, because the global trade architecture has not been able to facilitate real growth and productivity on the continent. And in the past, we've exported all our raw materials, but now we don't want to do that. And so reaching out, particularly to what we call, Akwesi mentioned, the global African, is very important.
I want to add this, that we are very, very grateful for you coming, and I hope that all that we discussed here will not just be words like the Honorable said.
Mr. Minister, again, let me thank you for your gracious hospitality, and I look forward to seeing you in the city of Houston at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, the largest rodeo in the world, when you've got your cowboy hat on, your cowboy boots on, your belt and the belt buckled, and I put you on a horse and you can ride down the streets of the city of Houston.